Again, it's me, Vincent Tredon of the Liberty Avengers Network. Today, we want to again consider why the fundamental human rights is the way to go for our nation, Nigeria. You see, oftentimes we are blamed our leaders over some non-enjoyment of the fundamental right. But in recent time, I come to realize that these leaders also are victims of circumstance. You see, in reality, one of the very dividends of democracy is the protection of the fundamental human right. But we need to, as a nation, take a very holistic look at this right and realize that our antecedent, our history, still stand against us in trying to practice these human rights provisions. I want to, at this moment, draw our mind back to 3 to 4 specific impact or influence of our history on the protection of these human rights provisions. For instance, one of our leaders once told us that a woman is only needed in the living room and in the other room. You see, and when that statement came, we criticized and we made jest of many things about it. But the truth is, the man is being honest and is speaking the mind of, a lot of us Nigerians because of our history. First of all, we talk about freedom of expression, freedom of association, and all this things. We need to realize, as Africans, we came from the monarchical system of government. We have culture. And then we now came into a state with its laws and these human rights provisions. Let us not think that our culture and tradition has left us. In the first place, we never decided to do away with them. But we have not taken time to align our culture with these human rights provisions and be able to subject some of our culture to those provisions or to necessary tests that will make us accept the one that we need to accept and do away with the ones that are no longer needed. I'll give you a quick example. For instance, our concept of leadership, which is the traditional system, a monarchical system of government, the king is all in all. Whatever the king says is final. The king is ordained by the gods, and so is not under the control of man. And so, in that traditional settings, if you oppose a king, you are gone. So, as it were, nobody has authority, the boldness to challenge a king. And now, as we are migrating, as we came to a state, people under the traditional monarchical system of government move from that system into the nation state. And now, you came about with the idea of democracy to protect human rights, to let people have freedom of expression. That man that moved from monarchical system of government into democracy, his mindset is still on democracy, on the monarchical system of government. And when he assumes power, in his mind, he expects you to obey him because he's now the leader. Even though he's in a democratic government, his idea of leadership is once the leader says something, nobody must challenge. So even though freedom of expression is in the document called Constitution, that is not what is in his mind. And so, as a nation, we need to consciously deal with this mindset. We need to consciously delete the things that we need to delete and know what we need to carry into the state. That is for a traditional system. And I want you to look at this other area. We came from, or we are all in religion. And if you understand, if you watch carefully, you don't stand to oppose your pastor or imam when he's talking. As a matter of fact, it's the mouthpiece of God. is ordained by God. So it is not expected that you shall lend your pastor or you shall lend your imams. What they say is final. That is why that you are a pastor do not mean you will do well in politics. Because the style of leadership, the theocracy of the religion does not allow, as it were, freedom of expression. You don't go there and challenge your pastors. You don't go there and challenge your imam. Whatever I say is final. As a matter of fact, when you oppose and start, you will be tagged rebellion. Not because that is a system. And so you have people who also migrated from religion into politics. Even though they believe that in democracy, and we say we are in democracy, they still have their religious mindset, their concept of leadership in religion into the politics. And so the moment they want election and they are seated, they want you to take instruction the way they saw it being practiced in religion. And so these are the things that we need to consciously address. You come from the traditional system where the king is supreme. You come from religious system where the pastor or the imam is supreme, into politics. The third one is, look at our culture. Our culture does not permit freedom of expression, freedom of opinions. No! As a matter of fact, in some of our culture, when an elder is talking, in fact, to greet an elder, you have to lie down on the ground. You don't, there are meetings that the youth must not attend. You are, in fact, if you come there, you talk, you'll be thrown out. So our culture, as it were, is not a culture that allows the youth and the elders to communicate. No, I remember a friend once said that, can you imagine from a child in Europe who has a father? Are you crazy? Well, as much as that is bad, is disrespectful, but I painted a scenario to him. Assuming you came to your house and you saw your young child, your senior son, bouncing on the younger one, beating him mercilessly, and you rush to say, hey, come on, stop it. Are you mad? Are you a murderer? How can you do this? You want to kill him? And the child was you, telling him that the person that behaved this way is mad. The same child now wash you one day, bounce on your wife, beating her mercilessly and doing one of things. And the child begin to look. Daddy is mad. And he look at you one day. Daddy, are you mad? As it were, he's not talking to you. He's referring to the act that you have described to him as madness. And then you can say, hey, can you imagine Junior asking me if I'm mad? Look at what this woman had done to my child. No. These are some of the things in our culture. The younger person is not allowed to express himself. And so we come into democracy. And you will see some of the leaders don't understand why the youth will talk when they are talking. They don't know why the youth should be in the scheme of things when they are still in the field. They come over from tradition, not democracy. So even though they're in democracy, they want to enforce what they understand in tradition. They still want the youth to bow down for them. The fourth one is the role of women. Like one of our leaders rightly said, in our culture, the place, even at most of our religion, the place of the woman, the living room and the other room. That's it. So our culture, our religion, as it were, does not have a place for women. So a politician, for instance, do not see why his opposition party should be a woman. Who is a woman in the first place? But that is not democracy. No, that is not. And that is why we are saying that, look, the human rights provisions are not provisions that we shut up in the Constitution. These are provisions that we more consciously teach. They more consciously be taught. Everybody, before, particularly when you are interested in politics, before you ever vie for any position, you must go back to this fundamental right. Go through them one after the other and internalize them. If you pretend to have them when you don't have them, when you get there, it will show. That's the truth. If you don't have it, when you get there, it will show. In either how you treat the youth, how you treat the women, how you treat people from other tribe, how you treat people from other religion, it will show. So these democratic tenets must be taught in democracy. We must consciously go after democracy tenets and consciously analyze. Unfortunately, we are not part of the generation that invented these ideologies. There are science, there are philosophies that gave birth to democracy. So these are things that we must consciously. States do not just grow. State men who at the point sit down and brainstorm on the way to go. So I urge human rights bodies, I call on the government. Let us do more in educating our citizens so that we can coach ourselves into a proper state and we will enjoy the dividend of democracy, which is the guarantee of the fundamental human rights.